Welcome back, viewers. This is Professor K. Anuradha from the Department of Social Work, Sri Padmavati Mahila Vishwavidyalayam, Tirupati, sharing her expertise in the field of working with individuals and families. So let's get on to our lesson titled Definitions, Assumptions and Values and the Major Components of Casework. We'll begin with the introduction. Social casework, as we all have seen, is one of the primary methods of social work. It tries to help individuals in a systematic manner based on knowledge of human behavior and various tested approaches. The basic aim of social casework is to mobilize the inherent capacities of the individuals to help them find solutions to their problems. Because it is casework, that is working with individuals, it is a person-to-person relationship, and it is based on certain philosophical assumptions of human nature and also values. In this lesson, we will discuss about the definitions of casework, its inherent philosophical assumptions and values, and also dwell on some of the major components of the casework method. Let's move on to the objectives. On completion of this lesson, you should be able to understand the concept of casework, the values and assumptions that underlie the method of casework, and lastly, what are the components of casework. So, having seen the objectives of this particular lesson, now let's turn on to the content. We will begin with nature of casework. Casework as a method of social work is concerned with promoting adjustment. Adjustment in whom? The individuals, so that they can develop satisfying relationships. When an individual does not have adequate internal or external resources to meet his psychosocial needs, especially any predicament that he is facing, the social worker helps him to mobilize the needed resources so that he can overcome his needs, concerns or problems. Thus, social casework is one-to-one relationship in which the social worker works in helping the individual in promoting his adjustment and development. This method is based on certain philosophical assumptions and values, and these have been defined and explained by various authors during the emergence of this method. In this lesson, the meaning and concept of casework is being understood by the following definitions. So, now let's look at the definitions of casework. Mary Richmond, way back in 1922, explained that social casework refers to those processes which develop personality through adjustment, consciously affected individual by individual between men and their social environment. Bertha Reynolds in 1935 felt that social casework is that form of social work in which an individual is assisted in his struggle to relate himself to his family, his natural groups or his community. Florence Hollis mentioned that casework as a method that is employed by social workers to help individuals find solution to their problems of social adjustment, which they are unable to handle in a satisfactory way by their own efforts. Hamilton, Gordon Hamilton in 1956 mentioned that in social casework, the client is stimulated to participate in the study of a situation, to share plans, to make active efforts to solve his problems by using his own resources and whatever community resources are available and appropriate. Jonathan Swift in 1939 mentioned that social casework is the art of assisting an individual in developing and making use of his personal capacity to deal with his problems that he faces in the social environment. So, from all these definitions, the following characteristics of casework emerge. If you see the characteristics, casework is a method that promotes effective adjustment of individual with his social environment. Casework helps to deal with psychosocial problems. Casework is process oriented, and casework is based on a professional relationship that is established between the client and his professional, that is the social worker or the caseworker. The following will help us to understand this method much better. The method of casework thoroughly lies on the caseworker-client relationship. So, what do we mean by that? Let us see that. The caseworker-client relationship is a relationship between the caseworker and the client. It is an important channel for the casework process. It's a gradual process of establishing a professional relationship which is controlled and purposeful, and it focuses on achieving clear-cut goals of client's well-being and treatment. It is distinct from other relationship in that because the kind of relationship that prevail in the human society are different, and it is characterized by attributes such as warmth, genuineness, empathy, and authority. So, now let us look at some of these characteristics of a casework relationship, caseworker-client relationship. What do we mean by warmth? This denotes a consistent, positive, lively, and outgoing interest in another person. In other words, it refers to being spontaneous to another by a display of pleasure or compassion. By expressing a warm attitude, the caseworker conveys to the client that he or she is open and has concern to understand the client's problem, the client's attitudes, and their sharing of experience. Warmth is also very important because it is demonstrated by the worker by showing continuous attention, listening, patiently instilling confidence, and conveying a feeling in the client that worker is interested in understanding the client's problem. Next is empathy. Empathy means feeling with and into another person, or in other words, it's the ability to get into another person's shoes. That's what Helen Perlman said in 1979. Empathy also means looking at a person's situation from his perspective, that is from his or her perspective, that is another person's perspective. Through empathy, caseworker is able to convey to the client that he or she has an understanding of the client's problem with accuracy and oneness, which is very, very important. Another important characteristic of this caseworker relationship is genuineness. To be genuine and congruent is to be free of pretensions. In other words, genuineness is the product of life experiences that make it possible to be self-observant, to be self-aware, and self-accepting of one's strengths and limitations. A genuine and congruent relationship consists of a consistent and honest openness and behavior which matches with the verbalized intentions and values of social work. Next, we turn on to authority. Authority is again a key aspect in casework relationship. It is an essential element of caseworker-client relationship, and it has been referred to by Perlman as ableness to be used for the client and not to be over or against the client. Authority in a casework relationship does not mean domination or willful imposition, no. Having authority does not make a worker superior to the client also. In other words, it rather implies that the caseworker possesses the expertise in understanding, assessing and dealing with the problem faced by the client. Authority, when we say authority, it is that of knowledge and expertise. The client goes to a worker in need of help who has the authority of knowledge and skills. That is, someone who knows more than him or her. So these are the typical characteristics of a typical professional relationship. Now let's move on to components of casework. Helen Perlman, while defining social casework, especially the social casework process, she highlighted 4 essential components of social casework in their relationship to one another. According to the author, a person with a problem comes to a place where the social worker helps him through a well-defined process. So now let us look at those 4 important components, and often they are referred to as the 4 P's according to Helen Perlman. The first P, or the important component, is the person. The person in a casework process is a man, a woman, a child or anyone who finds himself or is found to be in need of some help in some aspect of his social functioning, social emotional living, whether the need be for tangible provisions or counsel. As he begins to receive such help, he is called as a client. The client is a product of the social and cultural milieu and a set of life experiences and transaction. He is also a person with his own needs along with his problems. This was what was explained by Helen Perlman as the characteristics of a person or the client who comes to the agency. Now let's look at her explanation about the next P, that is the problem. According to Helen Perlman, the problem arises from some need or obstacle or an accumulation of illustration of maladjustments, and sometimes all of these together. They threaten or attack the adequacy of a person's living situation or the effectiveness of his efforts to deal with those situations. That's the nature of the client, she felt, was when he or she came to the agency. The third P in the 4 components is place. The place is a social service agency or a social service department of another kind of or any other kind of human welfare agency. It is a particular kind of social agency and department in that it is set up to deal not only with social problems at large, but with human beings who are dealing with such problems in the management of their own personal lives. The purpose is to help the individuals with the particular social handicaps which hamper their good personal or family living, and with the problems created by family person to person or person to situation relationships. This takes us to the last P, that is the process. The process, as termed in social casework, it denotes its center of attention and individualized aspect, is a progressive transaction between the professional helper, that is the caseworker, and the client. When we say process, it consists of a series of problem solving operations carried on within a meaningful relationship. The end of this process is contained in its means to so influence the client person that he develops effectiveness in coping with his problem, and also to influence the problem and to resolve or vitiate its effect. So the general purpose of social casework is to help an individual client to solve his psychosocial problems in such a way that he finds himself capable of dealing with these problems at present, and also to solve similar problems in future if such problems arise. Thus, from the above explanation, we can see that social casework has the following objectives. Number 1, to understand and help individuals to solve their problems. 2, to strengthen individuals' ego status. 3, assist individuals to explore solutions to problems in social functioning. 4, to help prevention of problems in social functioning, and 5, facilitate development of resources to enhance individuals' social functioning. Having seen the nature of social casework, having understood the importance of caseworker-client relationship, and also we have seen about the definitions of casework, now let us go on to the philosophical assumptions of social casework. Casework is based on certain philosophical assumptions which are accepted as true about the human being's functioning. Philosophical assumptions are important in casework process because they provide a frame of reference to understand human beings and also their interaction with their environment, and help us in exploration, assessment and intervention while doing casework. They are: man is a biopsychosocial human being and he is in constant interaction with his environment. All problems in social functioning are psychosocial in nature and most are interpersonal as well. Within certain limits, man can be understood and helped. Man can also grow and change, limited only by his inherent capacities and potential. Every person is unique as well as similar to others. So these are the solid philosophical assumptions on which casework is based. Now let us have a look at the values of social casework. The first value is: every man has inherent worth and dignity. This we all know is a fundamental value of democracy, therefore of social work also. He or she is worth of caring for the simple reason that he or she as an individual is a human being capable of contributing to growth of a society. It's also because of this value that social workers attend every person's need without any consideration of caste, class, creed, etc. And they serve everyone and anyone without any discrimination. Social workers recognize the fact that every member, whatever be his handicap, has worth, therefore he deserves to be respected and is a dignified member of the society, like anyone in the society. He has to be respected so that he can get all possible help and facilities to live a socially productive and personally gratifying life. Human dignity and worth reflect a particular view of humankind. Social workers believe that all persons have this inherent worth and dignity. Riemer in 1987 noted that the concept of dignity implies that human beings have right to be respected and that social workers should not discriminate among individuals based on considerations such as those related to race, ethnicity, gender, sexual preference or socioeconomic status. Social workers also generally assume that all people have certain basic needs such as those related to food, shelter, healthcare and mental health, and that all individuals should have equal opportunities to meet these needs. Respectful interaction with others affirms that sense of dignity and worth. Effective social workers treat people with consideration, respect their uniqueness, appreciate their validity of their perspectives, listen carefully to what they have to say, and ultimately, according to people, dignity and worth affords them what society has to offer. They share in opportunities and resources of a just society. From this value, it follows that every individual has right to self-determination. When we say right to self-determination, it means taking decisions about all the matters that are related to self, as long as it does not interfere with rights of others. One is considered to be capable of taking decisions about one's own future, and the helper is only to tell him to the pros and cons of his decisions so that he can enable him to choose a further course of action. This takes us to another important value, every individual is the primary concern of society. He has potential for and right to growth, and it is the acceptability and responsibility of the society to provide equal opportunities so that everyone can actualize himself. Then, every individual in turn has to contribute to the society's development. By assuming his social responsibility, discharging his function effectively and honestly, that is, acting properly and adequately, especially in his social roles, an individual is able to contribute to society's development. Another value which is very important is the individual and society in which one lives are interdependent. Neither the individual nor the society can be separated. We cannot conceive as being without each other. Basic human needs have to be met by services which are not contingent upon conformity either to moral behavior, race, nationality, religion, caste, etc. Having seen this, we have to know a bit about social justice in the context of casework practice. Social justice refers to the manner in which society provides resources for its members. Social justice makes explicit its right of persons and collectivities to what is proper for the development of their potential and for their common good. Social justice is an ideal condition in which all members of a society have the same basic rights, protection, opportunities, obligations and social benefits. Salaby in 1990 defined the details of the fabric of social justice. Social workers' professional relationships are built on regard for individual worth and dignity and are furthered by mutual participation, acceptance, confidentiality, honesty and responsible handling on conflict. Social workers respect people's right to make independent decisions and to participate actively in the helping process. Social workers are committed in assisting client system to obtain needed resources. Social workers strive to make social institutions more human and responsive to human needs. Social workers demonstrate respect for and also acceptance of unique characteristics of diverse populations. Social workers are responsible for their own ethical conduct, the quality of their practice, and seeking continuous growth in the knowledge and skills of their profession. Casework is a primary approach which is concerned with the objective of promoting satisfying human relationship. It's characterized by a dynamic professional relationship, which we discussed earlier. It is embedded in social values and principles, and it is driven by these values and principles, and it continues to be the most effectively used methods of social work today.